We're joined via Skype by the author, Sarah Tavola. And in studio, I have clinical psychologist, Professor Sats Cooper. Let me start with yourself, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us. What compelled you to write this book, and also why in rhyme?
Well, good morning. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on. I'm delighted to be here. My inspiration for the book came from my own family, really. My husband's from Fiji, and he has very dark skin and brown eyes, whereas I have light skin and blue eyes. And we have 6 children, and they all look very different from one another, with a great mix of colours and body types. I've always told them that they're all beautiful, and they should really embrace every detail of themselves and love who they are. They also have very different characters and opinions and are interested in different things. One of my twin sons, for example, loves having long hair and is passionate about playing football, while the other likes his hair short. He can't stand football, but he loves science. One of my daughters is a bookworm, another loves to sing, while 2 of them are really passionate about sport, and they have a dream of playing football professionally. So it doesn't do any use to compare them. They're each on their own unique journey, and I really love their individuality. Ultimately, they were the inspiration, and so the words really came from the heart. I wanted to write in rhyme because I love writing in general, and I do love poetry, but I feel like rhyme is particularly engaging for children because then they can keep up with the beat, and I think it makes it fun, and they can kind of go along with it in a rhythmic kind of engaging way.
Yep. All right, Sarah, Prof, can I bring you in here as well? Now, children today are bombarded with so many different types of messages about race, gender as well, so many stereotypes. At what age do parents start engaging kids and start telling them about, race, and try to explain to a child, look, you know what, we're different, but we're all the same?
Well, I think the child will begin to ask those questions as soon as the child is of a certain age or consciousness or speaking ability and so on. The child will begin to raise those questions, and it's how we deal with it that impacts that child, because children are learning organisms. They grow, they're dynamic, and they blot up everything in the environment. They get socialized into being who they are. So if you want to create a little racist, you start at home very early and say you are superior, whereas others are inferior, who don't look like you, who don't sound like you, who have a lesser or greater amount of pigment in their amount of melanin in their pigmentation. Yeah. So it's those kinds of things. But equality and being part of the human race. There's one race, not different races.
So basically, parents should watch what they say around kids, shouldn't they? Because that's what they pick up, and that's how, they go into the world listening, and, they look at us, they revere us. So what I say at home, maybe that's how my kid is going to react outside. Whether he acknowledges right there in front of me is not the thing, is it?
Absolutely, because they look up to those signal people in their lives. Their parents, usually the mother, hopefully more often the father, and others who are caretakers. And then in the school environment, in the kindergarten and in the primary and other school environments, their teachers become idolized and they look up to them. And how often have we not heard the kids say to us, well, it's not true because teacher says it's like this. Yeah. So
Sarah, just going back to your book as well, Perfectly Different as well. What age group are you aiming? Are you targeting with your book? And also, when you look at your own kids, at what point did they start questioning you about, race and gender and so forth?
Well, the book really is aimed for readers from 3 to 7 years. And I really do think it's important to instill these values and beliefs from early on, from as early as possible, because I think that's important for the individual, I think it's important for their community, and I think it's important as children grow for society in general when they come into leadership roles, that they have this idea of respecting everybody else, respecting individuality, tolerance, embracing diversity. And the younger you are when these values are instilled, the better, really. And I do agree that adults around the child really have a lot of influence in that way. The children pick up on cues around them, and whether intentional or not, whatever an adult has to say is picked up on. And they have to be very mindful about the judgments they're projecting and their language and their actions, because children, that's where children take their cues.
Professor, just based on that, when you look at if parents don't watch what they say to the kids now, the opposite of that is that what do? You think, listen, I enjoy everybody. I teach my kid that everything is fine. This is a utopian world and so forth. Do you send your kid out into a world as a naive kid, or how do you prepare him for what he may face or she may face out there?
Well, I think in very multicultural societies like ours is one of the most multicultural societies on earth. We need to actually prepare our children so that they not hit with those shocks, those terrible dents to their ego and their whole cognitive and emotional future.
Yeah.
So we need to do. I'll never forget my father, when I was growing up, would drive past the Durban waterfront and not stop at all. And I would think, this is a mean old man. He doesn't want to stop, because I could see all these kids playing or having an ice cream. Be very stern. And afterwards I realized, it wasn't long after, I was in mid-primary school, that was protecting us, so that the reality hit home, that if you stopped there and you would be refused service or diminished in some way. So parents have that duty. We hear almost every other week or so some racial incident in school.
Yes.
And it's our parents who ought to prepare our children for that, so that in the schoolroom, in the playground, walking to school, coming back from school, the child is prepared to confront that reality. Because actually all human beings, the overwhelming majority of us, have the same ingredients. We have the same makeup. There's very little. It's how we are reflected. Curly hair versus straight hair, the amount of fairness or darkness in our pigmentation. Those issues are there, but all of us are the same.
We're all the same. We're different, but we're all the same. Thank you so much, Professor Saz Cooper, clinical psychologist, and also via Skype. Thank you so much, Sarah Tavola, author of Perfectly Different for between 3 to 7-year-olds. Thank you so much. So be careful what you say in front of your kids at home.